From Taiwan to the Pacific, the US and its allies are ramping up efforts to counter China. Taiwan reportedly is overhauling its Marine Corps, modeling its forces after the US system to boost coastal strike capabilities. What lies at the core of this restructuring, you might be wondering? The reactivation of the 77th Brigade, once disbanded in 2013, now being brought back with long-range precision strike weapons, similar to those used by the US Marine Littoral Regiment. In fact, the Taiwanese president has made military modernization a top priority. We know that by now. And the Marine Corps seems to be the first to undergo transformation. According to reports, the objective of this move is to create a more agile, strategically effective force that can quickly respond to threats from the PLA. The US Marine Littoral Regiment reportedly operates in contested coastal zones with specialized combat teams, anti-air battalions, and logistics support. And Taiwan seems to be implementing a similar strategy. This restructuring reportedly follows increased collaboration between the US and its allies to use marine littoral regiments to counter a potential Chinese invasion of Taiwan. According to reports, a plan between the US and Japan includes deploying US Marine Littoral Regiments to Japan's Ryukyu Islands, armed with missile systems and other advanced weaponry, reportedly to counter Beijing's Taiwan ambitions, quite crucial. And despite its similarities with the US model, Taiwan's new brigade faces challenges, and analysts say that without a landing platform like an aircraft carrier, the brigade's effectiveness will likely be limited to operations near Taiwan's coastline, and that means striking deep into Chinese military positions may prove difficult. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, China's naval movements are raising alarms. Australia and New Zealand are closely tracking a group of Chinese warships spotted off Australia's eastern coast. Defense officials said that 3 Chinese vessels, a frigate, a cruiser, and a supply tanker, were seen navigating international waters last week. Their course has taken them south along the Australian coastline, with the fleet recently positioned roughly 150 nautical miles or 280 kilometers from Sydney. Australian Defence and Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles has said that the government is keeping a close eye on these warships. In fact, he made it clear that while China has the right to operate in international waters, Australia also has every right to monitor their movements closely. Listen in.
Both naval and air force assets have been deployed to make sure that we are monitoring exactly what is occurring here, and we are working with our other partners in the region, and we'll continue to do that for as long as the Chinese task force is in the vicinity of Australia.
Meanwhile, in neighbouring New Zealand, Defence Minister Judith Collins echoed similar concerns. According to reports, Collins said that New Zealand's forces are also tracking the Chinese vessels and reportedly said that Beijing has provided no explanation for their presence in the region. This latest development comes just days after an incident between the Chinese and Australian militaries. In fact, Canberra condemned Beijing for what it called unsafe actions by a Chinese fighter jet, which allegedly dropped flares near an Australian Air Force plane conducting a patrol over the South China Sea. How did China respond, you ask? Beijing fired back, accusing the Australian aircraft of violating Chinese sovereignty and endangering national security. You see, from Taiwan to the Pacific, US allies are ramping up their defenses, making strategic moves to counter Beijing's growing influence. And just how far will China go? How ready are the US and its allies to respond is the question. Our next story will shock you. In disturbing developments, a deluge of videos has surfaced online, drawing angry reactions from netizens and prompting an investigation in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Here's what we are talking about. First, for some context here. The Kumbh Mela is the world's largest religious gathering, which sees devotees taking the holy dip. This is believed to purify one's sins and bring one closer to spiritual liberation. What we're about to tell you is extremely disturbing. Videos of women taking the holy dip have allegedly been secretly recorded from multiple angles and shared on social media. We are disgusted by this trend. These videos of women bathing and changing clothes at the riverbank have surfaced across social media platforms reportedly. In fact, many of these videos lead people to Telegram for alleged access to full videos of women bathing. Now, not all of these videos are from Mahakumbh, but they are still being shared and sold online as if they are from the festival. Some have even created a database of these objectionable videos. Some of the videos have been secretly recorded and are being shared in groups with names like Ganga River Open Bathing Group, Hidden Bath Videos Group, Open Bath Videos Group. Can you believe this? According to Telemetrio, which is a Telegram search engine, basically an analytics platform, there was a significant surge in searches for the term open bathing in India between February 12 and February 18. Many of these videos and photos reportedly show women changing clothes or covering themselves with towels. And it gets more disturbing. The charge for accessing these channels ranging from rupees 1,999 to rupees 3,000. Of course, the state police has initiated an investigation. 2 social media handles, in fact, have been filed for allegedly posting and selling videos of female devotees. On February 17, a case was filed against one Instagram account for allegedly posting videos of women pilgrims. In another case, filed on February 19, a case was registered against a Telegram channel after it was found to be offering similar clips for sale. Both the cases were registered at the Kumbh Mela police station in Prayagraj, where the religious gathering is being held. It's part of an ongoing crackdown against misleading and offensive social media content related to the religious gathering. And these videos have also reportedly prompted the Uttar Pradesh police to seek information from Meta regarding the identity of one of the accounts filed in the case. The UP police has said that action, including arrest, will follow once the details are received. According to the police statement, the Uttar Pradesh police's crackdown comes after its social media monitoring team detected that certain platforms were uploading videos of women in a clear violation of their privacy and dignity. The police have also reiterated their commitment to taking strict measures against individuals who misuse social media platforms to spread objectionable content. The police are clearly stepping up to keep people safe from online harassment and make the digital world a better place for everyone. And as they continue with the crackdown, let's hope that more people start to understand how to use social media responsibly. Now, remember, a full month has passed since US President Donald Trump returned to the White House, and the Trump administration has in a way wasted no time in making major decisions, both on global and domestic fronts. From Canada and Mexico to China and West Asia, Trump has left his mark, but perhaps the most consequential moves have come as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. What's really going on behind the scenes at this point? Overall, the answer and the message is clear. Donald Trump seems to have granted the Russian President Vladimir Putin's wish list, most of which, by the way, were Russia's original demands even before the war broke out, effectively shutting down any opposition to Moscow and pushing the Kremlin to agree for a peace deal. So what exactly did Putin want? Let's just break it down for you. Condition number 1, no NATO membership for Ukraine. Now, last week, US Secretary of Defense made it clear that Ukraine will not join NATO. He dismissed the idea, in fact, outright, calling it, quote-unquote, unrealistic. His statement put an end to any little hope Kiev had of securing NATO membership. Even the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, seems to have accepted this reality, suggesting a plan B for his country's defense in an interview with The Economist. US position, in a way, is clear. NATO membership for Ukraine is off the table, and any settlement to the war will reflect that reality. And this, by the way, aligns perfectly with Putin's demand that Ukraine remain outside of NATO. Condition number 2, no territorial concessions from Russia. Until recently, Zelensky had hoped to negotiate a land swap basically offering small portions of Russian-held territory in Kursk in exchange for Ukraine regaining regions that it lost in the war. Around 20% of Ukraine, remember, remains under Russian control. But that idea was quickly quelled by the Kremlin. And the US Defense Secretary reinforced this stance, making it clear that Ukraine will never return to its pre-2014 borders. What's condition number 3? Europe must defend itself. In the past 1 week, Trump and the Defense Secretary have made their position on Europe's security crystal clear. Defending Europe is no longer America's burden. For nearly 8 decades, Western Europe has relied on the US military to maintain security. But, you see, Donald Trump seems to be on the path towards pulling the plug on that very arrangement. And the US Defense Secretary bluntly stated that European nations need to take primary responsibility for their own defense, reminding leaders that even US President Eisenhower warned about Europe freeloading of America. And Trump will not allow the US to be, in his words, become Uncle Sucker, quote unquote. Instead, the US Defense Secretary called on the European allies to step up, donate more ammunition and military equipment, expand their defense industries and prepare their citizens for the real threats that they face. And America made it clear that it will no longer be Europe's security blanket. Importantly, the US has also stated that Europe will not participate in negotiations in the Russia-Ukraine deal. Condition number 4. US troop withdrawal from the Baltics. Putin has long wanted NATO forces removed from the former Soviet territories. And it looks like he may be getting his way. According to reports, European officials believe that Donald Trump is likely to withdraw US troops from the Baltic states, a move that would basically expose NATO's eastern flank to Russian aggression. If Trump indeed decides to step back from European security, Putin's dream of a weaker NATO may be fast becoming reality. Condition number 5 is undermining Zelensky's legitimacy. Zelensky's presidential term expired in May 2024. However, because Ukraine has been under martial law since Russia's 2022 invasion, elections have been indefinitely postponed. The Kremlin, in fact, has seized on this to argue that Zelensky is no longer the legitimate leader of Ukraine. Putin has repeatedly labeled Zelensky illegitimate, reinforcing this claim in an interview last month. And Trump is also echoing that narrative. In fact, Trump has now called Zelensky, quote unquote, a dictator without elections, and warned that he must act quickly to secure a peace deal because, in Trump's words, he's not going to have a country left. Trump's policies seem to have given Putin everything he wanted. Ukraine outside of NATO, no territorial concessions from Russia, Europe left to fend for itself, US troops potentially retreating from the Baltics, and Zelensky's legitimacy questioned. Perhaps even Putin himself could not have scripted this any better.